So a mother brought her 10-year-old son to a spiritual leader, Mahatma Gandhi. And they sat down, and the mother said, "Master Gandhi, please help me. I need my son to stop eating sugar. I can't seem to get him to stop. And it's bad for him, it's bad for his health, it's bad for his weight, it's not sleeping well. I can't seem to get him to stop eating sugar. Would you please help me and tell him to stop eating sugar?" And Gandhi nodded to the mother and then looked at the son for a moment and said, "Come back in a week." And the mother went, "All right, I'll come back in a week, okay." So a week passes, he comes back, the mother and the son come back into the room, and they sit down, and the mother says, "Well, I asked that same thing last week. I can't get my son to stop eating sugar. Can you please help me? Please tell my son to stop eating sugar." And Gandhi nodded to the mother and looked at the son and said, "Stop eating sugar." And the mother said, "What? Why did I have to go back for a week? What went on?" And Gandhi said, "I had to stop eating sugar for a week before I could tell your son." Inherent worth and dignity. We relate to people from where they are in their truth, from where we are in ours. We come to each other not out of judgment, but out of shared experience. We find our authenticity, and we practice our ideals from that place of authenticity. We embody what we want, or what Gandhi is known to have said, "Be the change that you want to see in the world." And that's not always as easy as changing a habit, though stopping eating sugar is a pretty hard habit. Can I have an amen? But it's also about changing a habit of mind. It's also about changing habituation, the ways of being that we're not even aware of. And these are the things that we need to examine with one another, that we need to come together and ask about, to see. It made sense to the mother to go for spiritual help on this, because we need a sense of grounding, of orientation, to help us balance our lives toward health and wholeness. We need help, because this is larger than any of us. This month's worship theme, as Laurel said, is spirituality. It's part of the arc of worship that we have this year, where we're examining First Parish Milton's covenant. And the covenant phrase that inspired this month is "searching along many spiritual paths." The first phrase was "in devotion to truth," searching along many spiritual paths. So today, I thought we could do a taste of Unitarian Universalist spirituality. And as it's Friendship Sunday, thank you all who have decided to come and greet us for the first time. Maybe you could get just a flavor of what Unitarian Universalist spirituality and working amongst one another for deeper meaning might be about. And of course, this is a good day for this. It is timely for this, because spirituality is about connections. And we have a dire need to feel connected right now in this nation. Spirituality is about a connection to ground of being, about a connection to beauty in life and in self. It's about a connection to a sense of transcendence, which can hold us when we have no bearing, which can help us get our lives into perspective, which can encourage us to walk with feet and work with hands the hope of our lives. The spirituality can give us those connections. And this week has been a week of divisions. Preaching. Time of shock, when connections felt in danger of dissolving, and people didn't know where to turn. Some have experienced shattered dreams of what could have been. Others feel a tearing of trust, unsure whether they will be safe, unsure whether they will be seen, unsure whether they will be protected. Many feel an underlying anxiety of a divided nation, that half the population sees the world so differently, half the voting population that is, and there is a fear of heightened us and them, a fear of anger, a fear of resentment, and that rising in folk as well. So whether today people are celebrating or mourning, people are feeling finally heard or disempowered, it's a difficult time. We've been shaken to the core of the sense of the nation and of our shared citizenry. So thank you for coming this morning. Thank you for braving connection, for bringing yourselves here. Thank you for opening your heart and mind to what we can be together. That takes courage. And it also means that you have the stuff of hope within you that will get you through. It's important to develop spirituality that can hold you and ground you through unsteady times. It's important to find and feel ways of entering into this life that is too big to understand alone. It's important to have a sense to be in touch with the ultimate connection of our lives. And there's a phrase that is pretty popular these days, made popular a lot by President Barack Obama, that he has stitched in the rug in the Oval Office that has been attributed to Martin Luther King Jr., but it's actually a phrase that came from a sermon by a Unitarian minister, Theodore Parker, in the 19th century. And this phrase is, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice, and we have to remember the long part. And that we are a little part of that arc. And we can decide whether we stop it for a little while in our human community, or whether we keep going, persevering with that moral arc. In 1852, Reverend Theodore Parker said in his sermon entitled "Of Justice and the Conscience," "I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by the experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience. From what I see, I am sure it bends towards justice. Things refuse to be mismanaged long." And he's talking about a cosmic long here. Things refuse to be mismanaged long. The arc of the universe. The moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And what is justice? Justice is mutual recognition, what philosopher John Rawls called reciprocal recognition. Justice is seeing the other of equal value, leaving room, giving regard and dignity to each other. Equal value, equal being, the work of equal value and equal being. That is what justice is. And the cosmos already knows this truth of equal being, this truth of mutual recognition. Cosmos knows that a blade of grass is just as important as a human being. That a bird's song is just as wondrous as the song, the beautiful music that came out of our that the birthing of an animal is just as important as the discovery of a new idea. The cosmos knows this, and we know this on a soul level. Affirmed by another 19th century Unitarian, Ralph Waldo Emerson, that the highest dwells within us. He called it the oversoul, that we have the oversoul within us. It dwells here. So what we need to do is help each other excavate it. We need to help each other articulate it, notice it, believe in it. We need to keep coming back together to remind each other of shared strength of being, to teach each other of the world beyond individual knowing, to face the realities of the world together, challenge each other out of our narrow thinking, and every single one of us have places where our thinking is narrow. Put the fire under our bellies to use our gifts to put love into action. Now, Unitarian Universalist spirituality is about honoring that we are relational creatures who manifest the beloved community together. Our energy of hope sends a ripple effect into our lives and the lives we touch. Yesterday, a few of us from First Parish Milton attended a workshop held by the Growing Racial and Cultural Equity Group called GRACE, the Growing Racial and Cultural Equity Group. And the workshop was entitled Navigating Whiteness. And the room was packed, friends. Over 100 folk were there, many more than 100 folk were there from many congregations all over New England. And we sang a song in the opening worship which spoke to this simple, powerful truth. What you feel makes part of what we'll feel, came the chorus. It's a chain reaction. Put out fear and we'll fear fear. Put out love and we'll feel love. So we study the common good together. That's what we give to each other. We share our journeys toward healing and wholeness and find the wisdom within. We encourage people to give, to feel their abundance in generosity and the power of compassion. We find ways to be of service to one another and to society. We receive the energy of hope and bring it out into our lives. So I just wanted to share, just for a little bit, the framework of Unitarian Universalism, which creates a holding environment for the many expressions of being and believing that help us embody the holy in our ways and walking, and it's in our principles and purposes. And if you want to, in the gray hymnal, in the front pages, right before the first hymn, there are the 7 principles and purposes. Now this is our framework, our principles of relating. If you want to follow along while I'm talking, please feel free. It's right before the opening hymn, the first hymn. Inherent worth and dignity of every person, that's the first one. Now, with this nation so divided, with news that was shocking to most, or just something that wasn't quite understood to be possible, it's tough right now to go global with inherent worth and dignity of all persons. It's tough this week to do that. It's tough to see beyond the shock. So what we do is we stay local. We start with ourselves. We go to that oversoul place that's within us, that's within everyone. We know it's within everyone, but let's just go to get more familiar with ours. So I ask you just for a moment to sit and think and feel one bit of truth, one bit of beauty, one bit of dignity that is you, that you bring in your life. Just one. And don't overthink it and don't judge it. The first thing that comes into your head, the first thing that you can feel. One dignity, one truth, one beauty, something, just one. There are many, so just choose one. And when you have that sense within you, I'm going to ask you to do something. Let me describe it first. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone and share that bit that you give, that is of you. If you feel so moved, you can pass. And the other person that you're saying it to will say, I see your, you can say, I see your truth, I see your beauty, I see your dignity, whatever comes to mind. And then switch. Let the other person say, this I bring. And the other say, I see your beauty, I see your truth. I see your truth. So I think it's probably good if we rise, as you are here. Find somebody, and really, if there's someone that is sitting alone, make sure you find someone. Make sure everybody has someone to talk to. And just for a minute, just share the one thing that you want to share, and then the other say, I see you. Go ahead. Well, I don't know if you can feel it, but I definitely can feel the love and the spirit in this room. Maybe it rises like heat, so I get a little bit more of it. There you go. So the inherent worth and dignity is a local, and it reflects our seventh principle. There's sort of a circularness to our principles of purpose. If we can practice, see, find, live the inherent worth and dignity of every person, then we will come to a respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. We will help interweave it to a healthy wholeness. So the first and the seventh sort of parallel each other. And then we go to the second principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. I was given the honor to offer the closing prayer at Milton's Veterans Day observance at the gazebo last Friday. And part of the program included a presentation of the student essay and poster contest. And veteran Kevin Cook announced the winners when he called the artist with the poster. And he started to describe how it impacted him. He was moved to tears. He couldn't quite get through what he was saying. And it is because she included in that poster a rendering in the lower right-hand side of PTSD. And he said that compassion blew him away. He said he knew he couldn't speak of this without going to tears. We wouldn't have seen something like this 10 years ago, he said, full of gratitude for the deeper truth through compassionate eyes. Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Justice in living our lives, equity in the sharing of our lives, compassion in the listening of one another. Now, we do not know what compelled each other to vote the way we did. We do not know that. It was a response to need and a sense of survival. All of us are working that out. There are narratives that we need to understand, there are narratives that we need to be vigilant over, and there are narratives that were far more expansive than any of us knew. Compassion is not about giving permission to any kind of behavior, but it's about having a willingness to become wise about the behavior, to understand it beyond our own judgment. And that, if we have justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, again, in the circular, it goes to the sixth principle. It will bring about the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And the frame continues with our finding our way in beloved community, with the third principle, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. So one size of a strong, wonder-filled congregation, and a Quaker helped me see this, is when there is someone within it that you really cannot abide, that you cannot stand, like, the hair comes up on you, and it's like, oh my God, where's my God? That's spirit calling you to learn to love your neighbor as yourself. We thrive when we realize that not everything will feed us, too, in a congregation. That indeed something may feed another that is good. So sometimes there's a sermon that doesn't hit you at all, but it might hit somebody in the pew next to you, and that is a good thing. A song may be way out of what you want, but it may have hit somebody deep into the core in the back of the room. That is good, that we're all in this together. And a strong congregation is not expecting everything to feed you or speak to you in this wild diversity that we have together. And that ties in with the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and society at large, which is the fifth principle. So, as you see, we're doing sort of concentric circles. Now, it's important to lift up that nearly half of the voting population, over 46%, did not vote at all. So under 30% of the voting population ushered in the new president. If we want to preserve the democratic process, then we need to address this gesture of apathy or disregard. We need to lift up the importance of sharing our voices and finding our way together. We need to understand why people don't feel included, don't feel seen, don't feel that the power of their voice has anything to do with what happens in their lives. And we can do that, again, locally. I'm going to ask you, especially in this day of Friendship Sunday, to practice that in coffee hour. Sometimes what we do in coffee hour is we go, especially today, we might go to a friend and say, what about this week? Or we might just go and try and do some business because we're so busy. But today I just offer, how about if we, for the first 5 or 10 minutes, when you go to coffee hour, go and talk to someone that you don't know very well or that you don't know at all. Just do that, do that little discipline to, get it so that we are accepting and honoring other folk, just for a little bit. Find someone you don't know and say hello. And then we have the core, the center, which is a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the fourth principle. And that was really the impetus for the birth of Unitarianism and Universalism, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, which our forebears suffered death, exile, and imprisonment over. So there's much that we can give as Unitarian Universalists to this day and age, aching to find its way in the chaos of diversity and the fear of change and the wonder of our relational power. We Unitarian Universalists can practice our faith and give a solid voice to a world shared by all. We start with ourselves. 20th century theologian Howard Thurman offers this powerful reminder. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what you need to come alive, because what the world needs is people who are alive. Let's wake up together. Let's enlist justice together. Let's find the way together. So may it be. Amen.